and ask her about it, but nobody knows the way. No breadcrumb trail to follow through your days. It takes an axe sometimes, a feather.
Do I ever look at you? Hi, I'm Jeannie Ballou, and welcome to Jeannie on the Beat, Talking with the Talent, Ann Arbor's newest talk variety show where I'll bring you up close and personal with fabulous new authors and performers. Tonight we have with us Theresa Giannetti, pen name Stell Tonone, author of No Fences, Practicing Unconditional Love with Your Partner. Who of us hasn't practiced some form of emotional control over our partner, whether it's the silent treatment or hitting constant replay on our partner's past offense after our heartfelt apology has already been given? No Fences comes as a welcome triage to help us quickly and accurately identify our top toxic controlling behaviors and change them before we destroy our most cherished and valuable relationships. Theresa Giannetti, a self-proclaimed wild child, found herself running away from home once too often as a teen after countless conflicts with her parents. Theresa was adopted by her middle school principal, Terry, and her husband, Ron, who raised Theresa with the No Fences philosophy, ultimately inspiring her to write this book and illustrate it with her own photographs. Theresa heartily believes that No Fences saved her life and helped set her on a path that encourages stronger self-esteem and allows for authentic intimacy with a partner. As Theresa's book coach and editor, I had the honor of helping take her ideas from concept to print. I couldn't be happier to have her here tonight to share with you this power-packed little book that has the potential to radically transform your love life. So welcome, Theresa, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
So, great. So Theresa, can you tell us a little about No Fences? Where did this term come from?
Well, as you said, I was adopted by my middle school principal when I was 15 years old because I was a bit of a wild child. I grew up in an Italian-American household. They were very strict. My parents have 6 children, and we were going through just a little bit of a rough patch in our family. And I ran away a lot, got in trouble at school. I never felt like I fit in. I didn't feel like I knew what unconditional love truly was. So I set out to find something that I felt like I was missing, and I found that in my what happened to be middle school principal at the time, and ended up building a relationship with her and her husband, and they ended up adopting me and really introducing me to the true concept of unconditional love. Not saying that my biological parents don't love me, but unconditional love in the way that I believe and I would want to raise my child. And basically they just had an open door policy with me, so it's not that I turned into an angel overnight or I'm an angel now, but I was able to make mistakes and come home and tell them my mistakes and not have horrible repercussions from them. Like, they didn't want to disown me. They still loved me, I knew, and we would just work through it together and try to make different decisions. So.
I love that story. That's a beautiful story. Have you practiced No Fences within your own intimate relationships as an adult?
Well, absolutely. I think it took a lot of work. When I first started using No Fences, I mean, it's a day-to-day practice, and it's not like an overnight thing. Oh, I'm going to live and not be controlling and not use No Fences. But I try to use it all the time. I mean, if you like, I could read you a couple of pages of how I actually came to develop the book with my foster parents.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be great.
And then maybe you can understand a little bit more about how the concept is. So after I moved in with my foster parents, like I call them Uma and Papa, this is kind of how No Fences began. With my Uma and Papa's guidance, I learned how to make better decisions in my life and relationships. and how to develop a character that allowed me to take responsibility for my actions. They helped me learn how to communicate with my biological parents again by teaching me the keys to experiencing unconditional love with no fences. A highly respected leader in the educational system, my Uma's fierce independence, feminist leadings, and leadership qualities earned her admiration within the local community as well as internationally. Credited with opening the first American high school in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, my Uma had accomplished much more than I could ever imagined a woman achieving. There were few that did not praise her warm heart and beautiful soul. When my papa first met my Uma, he knew right from the start that she was a wild pony. Because of her free and energetic spirit and her leadership qualities, he knew immediately that putting up emotional fences in the effort to control her behaviors would alter the love and the care that she spread wherever she went. Instead, he looked for other ways to communicate his needs, wants, and desires without making my Uma feel angry, hurt, resentful, or disempowered. My papa's goal was to nurture and preserve the love of the most amazing woman he had ever known. As his relationship with my Uma strengthened, and he consciously practiced the concept of unconditional love within his marriage. Eventually, when they had me, or found me, he did the same thing with me as his adopted daughter. This was how the idea of no fences truly began. When my Uma and Papa first took me under their wings, they recognized that I too would jump any fence that they put up. So instead, they set out to love and respect me without fences, while harnessing my passions and helping me channel them in a positive way. They helped me to better accept my differences with others, to avoid judging them, to treat people as individuals, and to never give up on those who I care about. It also taught me how to prevent others from putting fences around me.
Awesome. That's really
part of the introduction that that gives you the story of where it came from. And so to finish answering your questions, after I've been taught this for years living with them, I started writing down my papa's notes. And every time I had a question, I'd ask him all these questions. Well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And I got older and I started dating, and I would have his notes to refer back to. And if I got in a situation with the person I was dating and I reacted in a way that I was regretful for and I wish I would have done differently, I would write down my negative reaction, and then I would go to my papa and I would say, how can I turn this to a positive action? What did I do wrong? And so I kept track of those. And then I started carrying my notes in my pocket. So if I came into a situation where I was about to act negatively and I was really hyper in making that phone call I knew I was going to regret and I couldn't calm myself down, I would take my notes out of my pocket, I would read through them, and then I would instantly just feel so calm, and I could think clear, and then I could actually make a decision that I wouldn't regret. And it helped me like nothing, and it was a natural way to do it. So I had read a lot of self-help books as well, but they were larger books, and I read them, and everything sounded great in theory, but when I was done with them, I put them on the shelf, and after a couple days, you kind of forget. I think you have to, every day, it's a mission to, if you want to change, really study and remind yourself, and so that's why I carried my notes in my pocket.
I love that story. It's like you were doing research.
Kind of, but not knowing it.
Without, just intuitively you did that. And so how did that then contribute to the design of this book? This is like what you might call a picture book for adults.
Or why did I come up with the design?
Yeah, that, and also that it's, well, you have this little book you can tell us about.
Well, I honestly, the little book was my first idea. I always knew that I had to get this out, this no fence theory out, so other people in my situation my whole world opened my eyes when I found out this unconditional love, no fence theory, and I wanted other people that didn't know to also have the experience without being adopted or, you know, going through what I went through. So this is my first idea, was to do something like my notes and just have this small book that people could carry along. And I wanted it to be really quick, a reference guide. So when they were in that heat of the moment, they could flip through it, and it could remind you of how you want to act and how your partner acts or is going to feel if you act in a different way. So I decided I designed the little companion book just for that purpose. So it wasn't a book that you read once and left. It was a book that is always with you, and that way you really could eventually change. Like, you work on changing every day because you never forget. Now if I have this in my purse, even I just look at the book, it will remind me. I don't even have to flip through it half the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know it pretty well.
Well, now. But still, just looking at it, I mean, you know, it's really beneficial for me. So that's how the whole idea for making the book began. But when we started working together, actually, there was so much information, and the story of where it came from was important that you just couldn't fit in a small book like that. So we decided to do a bigger book. I've always wanted to use pictures because I think a lot of people learn differently as individuals, and I wanted this to be an easy read. I didn't want there to be a huge amount of text. I wanted it to be simple text, simple examples, and drastic pictures that create to remind you of the feeling that you're giving the person, or that they're giving you when they're being controlled, when you're building fences around them. And so it kind of enforces that feeling when you look at the picture. So.
I love that. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'd like to give our viewers a picture of what your book looks like. So if you wouldn't mind reading a few pages from it.
I would love to.
And we'll show some of the pictures along with your reading as you go.
Okay. In my book, there are the top 11 toxic controlling behaviors that build fences, and then I give the 11 counterpart behaviors to break them down. So I will read 4 of those. Number 1, being demanding. When I am being demanding with you, when I am being demanding, I create rules and act as an authority over you. For example, I might set curfews, have unreasonable expectations, or control how all the money is being spent. When I act like your parent instead of your partner, it makes you feel frustrated and angry. When I am being demanding, I insist that my needs come first and neglect to take your wants, needs, and values into consideration. Each time your needs are discounted, you feel stifled. By being demanding, I make you feel suffocated, which causes you to put up defenses and creates distance between us.
Great, I love that.
Being flexible versus being demanding. I need to be flexible instead of being demanding with you. When I am being flexible, I ask for your input and listen respectfully to your needs. This allows me to own my wants, needs, and desires without criticizing or prejudging yours. Having the freedom to choose and not be locked into a black and white world helps you feel hopeful. When I am being flexible, I clearly state my boundaries so that you know my limitations. Yet I also ask you how you feel about my boundaries. When I clearly state what I am willing to accept or not accept and take your input into consideration, it helps you feel appreciated and secure. By being flexible, I consider your needs, which eliminates fences and creates unconditional closeness between us.
Great.
The next one I'm going to read is a more popular one with couples, I think. Hopefully not. This is number 7, being deceitful. When I am being deceitful with you, when I am being deceitful by lying, When I lie, I do it to protect myself from your possible reaction of anger or disapproval. You feel shocked and betrayed when you find out that I've lied, because I'm hiding my true desires and perhaps a whole other life from you. Sometimes I lie to avoid feeling embarrassed, ashamed, or rejected about something that I'm having a problem or issue with. This hurts you because you feel that I cannot trust you enough to tell you the truth. When I am being deceitful with you by withholding information. Sometimes when I hold information, I do it to avoid my own embarrassment about something or my discomfort from hurting your feelings. When you discover the truth or how I really feel, you are hurt and angry at me for not being open and honest. Sometimes I omit information because I think I know what's best for you. When you find out, you feel reluctant to share things with me and are upset with me for not letting you manage your own life. By being deceitful, I make you feel like I've stabbed you in the back, which causes you to put up defenses and creates distance between us. 8, being honest versus being deceitful. I need to be honest instead of deceitful with you. When I am being honest, I tell the whole truth about my situation and my real feelings. Completely opening up to you helps you trust my words and allows space for us to be straight with each other. When I am being honest, I may admit that I'm scared to tell you the truth because of how it may make you feel, but I still do it anyways. Talking about whatever is bothering me encourages you to reciprocate the same kind of sincerity with me. When I'm being honest, I bring things into the light so that you feel included, and that helps develop belief in the truth of my words. By being honest, I help build openness, which eliminates fences and creates unconditional closeness between us.
All right, great. Yay.
Those are just
Thank
examples
you.
of how the book pretty much goes.
Great, great. Thank you so much. So I have a couple more questions about fences. Is there ever a good time where it's useful to build a fence with a partner?
I do have a section in here about positive fences, and basically there is a positive fence. I can read it to you really fast. It's short. It just says, what is a positive fence? The only fences that we should build are those that form healthy boundaries and encourage personal growth. These fences can include the ones that we put up to define what we choose to accept from others in terms of their behavior towards us. Remember, you choose who you want in your pasture. You're still able to practice unconditional love even if you kick someone toxic out of your pasture. But I think it's really important to have positive fences and boundaries, because that's how you establish your respect and your in your relationship, really, is you establish your positive fences and hopefully your partner respects them.
So it's really kind of like no negative fences.
No negative fences.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. So how do these principles apply to other people in your life besides intimate partners?
Well, I think that if you get no fences and you're working on no fences and you believe in it and that's how you want to live your life, if you're doing it with your partner, then it's going to carry over to your children, it's going to carry over to your parents, because as I said before, I initially got the idea from my parents, putting fences around me. So I applied it to this book for adults, but that's the way it first came up with me was through my parents putting fences on me.
Great, good point. So if someone starts to practice no fences with a partner, how will he or she know if it's working?
I think the minute that you stop yourself, even if you don't have the little book, if you stop yourself before you're about to do something that is a fencing action or controlling action, I think that minute that you realize that you stopped yourself and thought before you did it is when you know, oh my gosh, like I really am starting to live this way.
Oh, great. That's interesting.
And I think other reason is if you see a positive change in your relationship with your partner by the way that you've been changing, and if you see his response or her response, is more positive, and I think that's another great way to say, oh my gosh, this is working.
So speaking of you changing and changing partners, I would imagine that you probably often have people excitedly saying to you, oh, I can't wait to give this book to my partner.
All the time. I know this is the perfect book for someone.
Oh, just, wish my husband would read this, or my wife, or whatever. How do you respond when people say that?
Well, I just respond that you're responsible for changing yourself if you want to change, but you can't change someone else. Mm-hmm. So basically, if your partner expresses a desire to change, and then you can obviously recommend the book to them. Mm-hmm. But if you're invested in trying to change someone else, then it's never going to work.
So you pretty much tell them, just forget it, don't even try.
Well, not forget it. You can
change them.
Yeah, because they're going to have to want to change. They're going to have to want to read the book. They're going to have to want it, because it's not an overnight thing. It's a life. It's going to be a life journey for you to work on it and to truly change.
And if they see you changing, they might get interested.
And if they're not interested, then you can't force them to be.
So you don't suggest just subtly slipping it under their pillow or in the briefcase?
Well, my best friend has it, and her husband doesn't love reading books, but actually they read it in bed together.
Oh.
And that's been kind of cool. He's enjoyed that, so that might be. You can always suggest it and do fun things like that, but in forcing him to read it and live by it, it's not going to work.
It's then creating a fence.
Then you're controlling them, and you're putting fences on. He's going to run the other way.
Exactly. Jump the fence. Mm-hmm. What if there are some behaviors that someone, despite reading your book, really just can't stop doing, no matter how hard they try?
Negative behaviors in your relationship?
Like if they're doing these, one of these 11 books, again, they're trying, but they just can't stop.
I think that in that case, you need to assess how bad the behavior is affecting you, and if you can live with it, and if you can't. And basically at that point, hopefully you seek some kind of other help, professional help or counseling or whatever. But if it comes to the point where you're in a controlling relationship and they're not going to change, it takes two people to work on it, then you need to make the decision if you want to still be in that type of relationship or not. Mm-hmm.
So if someone bought the book because they really want to work on the relationship that's troubled, because I imagine probably often that would be the case, and the person who bought the book and has been really working on it, and they've stopped doing all the fencing behaviors, but their partner's behavior hasn't changed at all, that would be the time when you're saying that they need to just reassess whether they want to stay in a relationship with somebody else who's not responding to their changes.
Yeah, because it's going to take two people no matter what. And if you don't have one there willing to work just as hard as you are, then it's just not going to work. Or you're going to sacrifice. Yeah. You're going to sacrifice how you want to be treated for staying with the relationship, which is not healthy either. It's a personal choice, though.
Good point. What are some other books in your No Fences series? What else do you have planned for the future?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts of what I would like to do. I would always like to make a sequel. I know there's more than 11 controlling behaviors that couples do, so I would love to do a sequel to this one.
Okay.
On practicing unconditional love with your partner too. I would also like to do No Fences with your children, because that's how I realized I was, being pushed away. Although my parents were trying to bring me closer by controlling me, they were actually pushing me away. I think that would be beneficial. I have ideas of doing No Fences with your exes. I think that's huge, because a lot of people, especially with children, they don't know how to communicate, and they play games, and the children are involved, in the middle of it. And I think if we had a good, easy handbook like this, maybe it would help, exes. But I could do No Fences in the workplace, No Fences with your siblings. I think it's endless, the amount of people that you could help with this theory.
And with your friends.
With your friends. With everyone.
Do you see No Fences with children as different than No Fences with teens? Would you write a different book just for teens?
That's an interesting question. I think troubled teens, or teens in general, it would be different. I think the no offenses with your children are going to be more towards the parents. No offenses with your troubled teens, I might gear more towards like a troubled teen.
For the teenager, teen
To
reader.
read, right.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that. So how can no fences help young people who are just starting out in intimate relationships? And they're just starting to date.
Yeah, if they're just starting to date and they're you know, curious about if they believe in the book and they read the book and they don't want to be controlled, maybe they've been around bad controlling relationships or something like that. I think that reading No Fences and believing it and living it is going to help them find a better partner, because they're going to find someone that's more like they are, you know, not controlling and unconditional and just everything that the book says. I think it will help them better find a good match for the future.
Great. And so can you share with us any other of your own experiences from your either teen life or adult life that you remembered, you know, really using these principles?
You know, the most time I've used them is in the midst of an anxiety of, say you haven't heard from your boyfriend and he was supposed to call at this time.
Okay.
And you start getting anxiety and he's doing this and he's doing that and you're double guessing and your mind's like just wandering and you can't control it. Like,
and which toxic behavior might you then be wanting to do in that situation? Like what might come up for you?
Being demanding, being questioning you.
Being jealous.
Being jealous. Like a police report.
Interrogating.
Interrogating,
Okay.
absolutely. But if I take a second and read through all of my notes or read through the smaller book before I make that phone call and question him and accuse him and ask him and
Go ballistic.
Go ballistic. Before
Yeah.
I do that, if I read through it, that's when I use it the most, because then I calm myself down and you read through it and you're like, okay, wait, give him the benefit of the doubt. There has to be a reason. Or think about past things that he's done. Think about awesome things, emails you've gotten, or
To reassure yourself.
yeah, to reassure you, like
Okay.
phone calls, roses. I don't know, anything
Great.
anything awesome that he's made you feel like that you can feel comfortable to give him benefit of the doubt instead of just blowing up at him and
To
accusing
reassure
him.
him. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're out of time here, but is there anything you'd like to add to close with for our viewers?
I would love to
real
close
quickly?
with a quick little paragraph
Okay.
that says, living with no fences is a way of life that I believe will allow you to breathe easier, sleep better, love deeper, and create stronger bonds with those that you care about. Because after all, we do not want our loved ones to feel or to make us feel like jumping the fence.
All right. I love it.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you for coming, Theresa. I'm so happy to have had you on the show, and I wish you the best with
You as well.
all of your future endeavors. Great.